Get ready for a deep dive that I think you're going to love. We received a script from an event at St. Paul's Catholic Church in Oyigbo, Nigeria. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a celebration honoring couples celebrating some serious wedding anniversaries.
That sounds lovely. Tell me more.
Yeah, it's really heartwarming. It gives us a peek into how this community honors these couples who've been together for decades.
I mean, that's especially beautiful considering the cultural context in Nigeria where marriage and faith are so closely connected.
Exactly. And we're not talking about just a few years here. We're talking 35 years and beyond.
Wow.
Yeah, the script really puts a spotlight on one couple in particular, the Adumahs, celebrating an amazing 45 years together.
45 years, that's incredible.
It really is. And get this, there's a fascinating detail about one of their sons, Paul Chika Adumah, also known as Mr. Farage.
Mr. Farage? I'm intrigued already.
I know, right? Even the nickname itself feels like a story waiting to be told.
Yeah, you're right. Names often carry so much cultural significance. I'm really curious to unpack that nickname and how it connects to his parents' love story.
Me too. And speaking of their story, the script does such a good job of painting this vivid picture of the entire event.
Oh, I can imagine.
It starts with the Master of Ceremonies, really setting the scene and emphasizing just how significant these anniversaries are.
So it's not just about the number of years, right?
Right. It's about the fact that these couples have faced life's ups and downs together.
That's powerful. It's that resilience, that commitment. That's what really stands out, especially when, relationships today are often seen as temporary.
Absolutely. And you can practically feel the energy shift in the room when the Adumahs are announced. 45 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And their journey began at St. Charles Catholic Church in Apigi, Nukem local government in Nugu State. It's quite a journey they've been on.
It's amazing how those specific details really ground the celebration in a certain place and time. These grand love stories are actually built on all those seemingly ordinary moments in specific places.
And from those moments came 6 children. Mrs. Edith Kaneochukwu Ogor, Mrs. Ifeoma Juliet Ugwani, Engineer Adumah Emmanuel Chinedu, Barrister O.J.O. Adumah, Chrysanthus Tubuchukwu Adumah.
Wow, what a family.
I know. And of course, the one and only Paul Chika Adumah, a.k.a. Mr. Farage.
There he is, Mr. Farage. So his name is a fusion of his parents' names, Felicia and Richard. What a beautiful tribute. What do you think about that choice?
It's like every time he's called by that name, it's a constant acknowledgement of his parents' union. Like their legacy of love is woven into his very identity.
Right, it's so powerful. It really shows how a name can hold such deep meaning. It's not just a clever combination. It's a real testament to their bond and the family they created based on that love.
It's amazing. And, it's not just about the Adumahs. The script also mentions other families like the Nwabichis and dedicated community members like a Mr. Jude, who is a catechist.
A catechist. So it's someone who teaches the principles of the faith.
Yeah, and it just really highlights how intertwined lives are within this church community.
It sounds like the community itself is a huge part of this celebration. It's this collective joy, this shared faith, and the experiences that bind them together. They're honoring these couples, but it's all happening within this larger tapestry of their shared faith and life experiences.
Exactly. And then comes Father Christopher Namani with some serious wisdom. He reminds everyone that...
Oh, I'm curious. What did he say?
Marriage is not for the faint of heart. It's for 2 forgiving people.
Wow. What a statement, especially in the context of all these long-lasting marriages.
I know, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to me, it shifts our focus. We tend to have this fairy tale view of finding the perfect partner, but that's not realistic, is it? These couples show us that real life is messy.
Yeah, and that's where forgiveness comes in. Not as some grand gesture, but as a daily choice. What do you think?
I think he's right. I think it's about choosing to forgive day after day. Those inevitable bumps in the road, they become opportunities to grow together instead of reasons to give up.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's less about finding a fairy tale and more about choosing to see the reality of what a relationship is and choosing to forgive.
Exactly. And the script even mentions the MC prompting the congregation to respond with a resounding amen. Can you imagine being there in that moment? It must have been such a powerful and unifying experience.
I can only imagine. It's like everyone's acknowledging the truth in Father Christopher's words together. It's a shared belief.
It's fascinating how these shared rituals, those verbal affirmations, can really strengthen those community bonds. They're coming together, affirming a shared truth, and reinforcing their values as a group.
Right, and then we get into how they honor these couples. They receive certificates of appreciation from the church and sacramentals.
Ah, yes, sacramentals. We received a note about those. They might be a new concept for some listeners, though.
Yeah, can you explain what those are and why they're important in this context?
Sure. So imagine you're holding something small, maybe a rosary, a medal, or even a vial of holy water. It's not just a gift, It's like a physical reminder of your faith, a connection to something bigger than yourself. That's what sacramentals are in the Catholic tradition. They're these physical objects that act as a link between the spiritual world and the physical world.
So in this case, these sacramentals are given to the couples as a way of acknowledging their commitment and reminding them of the spiritual aspect of their marriage.
Exactly. It's like a symbol of the church's blessing on their union, a physical embodiment of their faith.
That's a really beautiful way to add depth to the celebration. It goes beyond the earthly bond and acknowledges a higher power seeking blessings for the future.
It really reflects how faith and commitment are so intertwined in this community. They're not just celebrating their love for each other, but their dedication to their faith as well.
And then, of course, comes the party. Music, food, dancing, the whole celebration of life and love wrapped up in this joyous occasion.
That's so important, and it really speaks to the vibrancy of the community. Sometimes people think faith equals seriousness, but this shows that's not the case at all.
Absolutely. This event shows how reverence and revelry can go hand in hand, honoring the sanctity of marriage while embracing the joy it brings. Before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, what stands out to you most from what we've discussed so far?
It's fascinating to see how individual love stories are so connected to the larger community and their faith. These couples are a reflection of these broader values. The celebration itself becomes a testament to those values.
Right. It's like each couple's love story contributes to this bigger tapestry of shared experience, faith, and resilience.
Yes, exactly. And it's a powerful reminder that even though we live in a world that often feels increasingly individualistic, we actually thrive through connection. Connection through shared values and through the support we find in our communities.
I love that. Now let's take a closer look at the nuances within the script. I'm especially interested in how this concept of forgiveness plays out in these long-term marriages.
Father Christopher's words really got to me, Made me think about how we often go into relationships with these grand ideas of happily ever after, but real life is a lot different, isn't it? Like these couples demonstrate it's not always easy.
It's funny how those fairy tales kind of set us up for disappointment.
Yeah.
Like no one warns you about in-laws or leaky faucets right before a romantic getaway.
Or a global pandemic, right?
Exactly. Life happens.
Yeah.
And it's those shared experiences, the good and the bad, that really shape your relationship. And I think that's where forgiveness becomes so important.
I think so too. And it's not this big one-time thing, is it? It's something you have to practice daily.
Like a muscle you got to keep working out.
Exactly. Letting go of those little things that bug you, those misunderstandings that can turn into something bigger if you let them. Sometimes it's more important to be kind than to be right.
And the script really stresses that it's not about finding this perfect person, because that person just doesn't exist. It's more about finding someone you can forgive. Someone who's willing to grow with you.
And that takes self-awareness too, doesn't it? Forgiveness isn't just about the other person, it's also about recognizing your own imperfections, owning your mistakes, and being willing to apologize when you've messed up.
It's definitely a two-way street. Now, the script doesn't really get into the specifics of what these couples have faced over the years, but I'm sure there were arguments, doubts. What do you think helped them through those tough times?
Well, their shared faith probably played a big part. It's not just about going to church together, is it? It's about sharing a belief system, something larger than themselves that can provide guidance and strength when things get tough.
Like a compass to help them navigate those rough waters.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just faith, right? There's the support of your community too.
That's true. We see that throughout the script, actually. The celebration itself is a testament to that community support. They all come together to celebrate these couples, acknowledge their dedication, and offer encouragement for the years ahead.
And that support can come in so many forms, right? From practical help to simply being there to listen.
Absolutely. It's knowing that you're not alone, that there's a whole network of people who care about you and your relationship. That feeling of belonging, especially when you're struggling, can make all the difference.
I agree. It's like a safety net made up of love, faith, and shared experiences.
So the script also highlights the role of ritual in this celebration. We talked about those sacramentals, the physical objects that represent their faith, but there's also the certificates, the singing, the meal, the dancing. What do you make of all those elements?
Rituals are powerful, aren't they? They give us structure and meaning. And I think in the context of this event, they're like markers of time. They acknowledge the years that have passed, and the lasting nature of these couples' commitment.
So each ritual has a symbolic meaning. Those certificates aren't just pieces of paper. They're public recognition from the community. The singing isn't just for entertainment. It's an expression of their shared joy and faith.
And those shared experiences create memories that strengthen their bond. Think about it. Years from now, these couples will remember the music, the laughter, the feeling of being surrounded by loved ones.
They're creating a tapestry of shared experiences. And it's not just for the couples being celebrated either, right? It extends to everyone there, strengthening the entire community.
Exactly. It reinforces that sense of belonging. They all share a history and values. It's a reminder that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
We've been talking a lot about forgiveness, but I'm curious, what about those situations where reconciliation just isn't possible or healthy? What does this event have to say to those who might be facing those difficult relationship decisions?
That's a good point. While forgiveness is definitely at the heart of this celebration, it doesn't ignore the reality that sometimes staying together isn't the biblical choice.
So how do we reconcile the importance of forgiveness with the understanding that sometimes letting go is the kindest thing to do?
I think it comes down to recognizing that forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to excuse their behavior or stay in a situation that hurts you.
It's about finding peace within yourself no matter what happens with the relationship.
I think so. Forgiveness can be incredibly healing even if you don't get back together. It allows you to let go of the anger and resentment that can hold you back so you can move on.
It's a good reminder that forgiveness is about self-love too, and that sometimes taking care of yourself means letting go of a relationship.
And sometimes letting go can be an act of love towards the other person too. You're giving them space to grow and change, which might not have been possible within the relationship.
Before we finish this part of our deep dive, I have a question for our listeners.
Yeah.
Think about your own relationships, romantic or not. Is there an area where you could practice a little more forgiveness? Maybe a past hurt you've been holding on to, or even forgiving yourself for something you regret?
What a powerful question. And remember, forgiveness isn't about forgetting or condoning. It's about releasing those negative feelings and making space for healing.
Let's move on to the last part of our deep dive now, where we'll look at the bigger picture of this celebration and what it tells us about the heart of this community. So we've really dug into this celebration, haven't we? From those inspiring stories of love that has lasted to that powerful message of forgiveness. But I think it's time to look at the bigger picture here. What can we take away from this as outsiders looking in? What does it tell us about what this community really values?
It's such a fascinating glimpse into a world where faith, family, and community are so closely connected. It reminds us that relationships aren't just isolated things. They exist within this bigger social structure that shapes them and supports them.
It's like we're seeing a tiny version of a culture where these values aren't just words, but they're lived out, celebrated, and passed down to the next generation.
Exactly, and the celebration itself becomes this ritual that reinforces those values. It reminds everyone there of what truly matters. And it's not just about the couples being honored, it's about the whole community reaffirming their commitment to those same values.
And it's interesting how the event blends the sacred and the secular so well. There's the ceremony, the sacramentals, the priest words about forgiveness, but then there's also the music, the dancing, the food, the pure joy of celebrating life together.
That's what makes it so special, I think. It challenges that idea that faith and joy can exist together. Instead, it suggests that spirituality can be a source of both comfort and celebration. It helps you navigate life's tough moments while also embracing the good things, the abundance.
And I think that message goes beyond this one community. Religious or not, the values being celebrated here, love, commitment, forgiveness, support, they're universal.
Absolutely. It reminds us that even though we're all different, we have these basic human needs that connect us, the need for love, belonging, and purpose. And we often find those things in strong relationships, whether it's family, a faith community, or close friends.
It's like this celebration is saying that human connection is what helps us get through life's journey. And it highlights how important it is to really nurture those connections, to invest in the relationships that matter most.
Because in the end, those relationships are what give our lives meaning. They're the foundation for resilience, growth, and for leaving a legacy that lasts.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into how a Nigerian Catholic Church celebrates lasting love, I want to leave you with something to think about. What small act of kindness, generosity, or love can you offer someone in your life today? How can you strengthen those bonds, express your gratitude, and add to that amazing tapestry of human connection that we all share?
What a beautiful thought. Take the inspiration from this celebration and bring it into your own life. Because even the littlest things can make a difference. We can create a more loving and compassionate world, one connection at a time.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.